520,000. That is the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases currently in the United States alone, with 20,000 of them being confirmed number of deaths. That's a 4% fatality rate. As someone who has family members with pre-existing medical conditions, I find that to be deeply concerning. And I feel as if I'm not the only one, but I'm sure other Ohioans feel the same as well. We have the current stay-at-home order in place by Governor Mike DeWine due to the effects of COVID-19, but I believe that these current measures are not enough. As I address the Ohio General Assembly, I say that legislating and voting for stricter guidelines and punishments for mitigating COVID-19 must be put in place to minimize transmission for the well-being of the Ohio people. I say this for a multitude of reasons. I say that the current guidelines are not comprehensive enough to flatten the curve, that stricter guidelines will help ensure minimal transmission, and that legislation should be implemented from the lessons and examples that we've learned from other countries to ensure the safety of Ohio. As I said previously, current guidelines right now are not comprehensive enough to flatten the curve. As current data shows, statewide cases continue to increase despite current guidelines. The Ohio Department of Health stated that since the first case in the beginning of February, cases have continued to rise statewide, with, as of yesterday, there are over 7,000 confirmed cases in Ohio. To add to that, the JAMA Insights Clinical Update stated that respiratory aerosols can travel up to 27 feet. Now, as we referred back to the stay-at-home order, the current social distance is 6 feet. To have a potential margin of error of over 20 feet is deeply, deeply concerning. Now, despite these current guidelines, there are still Ohioans who completely choose to disregard them all completely. While Mike DeWine has been praised for his proactive actions, there are people out there who take to social media and very much criticize him. There's someone here who had wrote, "Open up your state, let the adults choose for themselves. And so the world is going to shut down with every sickness until a vaccine's made." Now, regardless of whether or not people agree or disagree with Mike DeWine, it's safe to say that it's the current guidelines here that keep these people alive. So with greater guidelines and restrictions, that'll only help save more people's lives in the long run. Now, while for Ohioans who choose to disregard or don't understand the severity, these stricter guidelines will also work to help drive home the severity of this pandemic and how it'll be enforced. So we need to understand that stricter guidelines will minimize transmission. As we've seen with the National Guard, they've done amazing things in terms of national disasters, post 9/11 operations, medical aid. And we see here, as reported by WDTN TV, that Mike DeWine has activated over 400 members of the National Guard in use for food distribution for food pantries in Ohio. But if we were able to increase the number of National Guard activated, say 1,000 or 2,000, that would be a game changer, as we could disperse those units into different services for Ohio, be it food distribution, logistics, medical aid, or even security or checkpoints should the need arise. Supporting this fact is an article that was reported by the National Guard News about a National Guard airman from Puerto Rico who took his own initiative to create face shields from a 3D printer and distribute them to local medical facilities as well as his fellow soldiers in the base. If we were able to take that inspiration and initiative on a statewide scale and spread that throughout Ohio, no doubt our efforts would multiply and we would have greater benefits with the National Guard. Another requirement that we need to in place is the requirement of face coverings for anyone seen outside if possible. I say this because of some studies here. Cambridge University reported that surgical masks and cloth coverings greatly prevent aerosol exposure. So when you have that face covering over you, not only does it minimize the distance at which the aerosol travels, but it minimizes the amount of time that it lingers in the air. And to add to that, the Journal of Travel Medicine said that the reproduction number, which is the number of how many people can get infected from one person who has COVID-19, that number is over 3.2, which exceeds World Health Organization estimates. And that's a very concerning concerning fact for people who were able to transmit the virus. And if we were able to have those face coverings, to limit and potentially lower that reproduction number, that is more than worth the effort. While these seem harsh initially, we need to understand these measures will be worth it and that we can use these based on examples we learned from other countries. So we need to see the examples from other countries. The Straits Times has reported the relatively lax and coronavirus measures taken by Sweden. They kept cafes, restaurants, bars, and schools open, and that resulted in over 1,000 deaths as of yesterday. On the bright side, however, the Washington Post did report that South Korea is a beacon. It is one of the best examples of how democracy can overcome the virus. They were able to inform the public very quickly early on while keeping things transparent, as well as keeping them calm and mobilizing education and civil society. We need to learn from these examples, as well as New York and Italy, to apply them to further legislation or guidelines should the need arise for Ohio's to ensure the well-being of the Ohio people. And we need to take a step back and take a look at the bigger picture of this order. We need to understand that these guidelines are currently not enough to not only flatten but lower the curve. These guidelines minimize transmission, and that following these examples from other countries will prove beneficial for the Ohio people. As an Ohioan, I implore you, the General Assembly, to take into consideration the statements that I've made and to make the best possible choice for the American people. Thank you.